and I am talking to constituents in Nevada, they look at Washington as a bubble. They don't really think that things happen here unless they see it on the news, or they have no trust in really us coming together to work on behalf of our constituents. And I think it's time we focus on what needs to be done in the best interests of our country than focusing on political game or gamesmanship. And the reason why I say that is, I don't know about you, Mr. President, but I know every single senator comes from a state and they care about their constituents. They get emails from their constituents and letters from their constituents. When we go home, we claim to be in a recess. It's not really a recess, we're home working. We're talking to our constituents, the businesses, the individuals that are there. And if we're really listening to our constituents, particularly at a time now, when this pandemic has created the worst health crisis we have seen, not just in this country, but around the world, and has contributed to an economic crisis, then we are hearing from our constituents that they are struggling right now. And the reason why they're struggling is because we have asked them to stay at home and shelter in place to stem the spread of this virus. We've said, listen, we don't have a vaccine. We're working on it, but we don't have it right away. And we need to ramp up our tests so that we can make sure that you can get it and quickly to determine whether you have this virus or the antibody, so we can then quarantine you and shelter you. But until we even get to that point, we've asked everybody to stay home. And they have done it. I know in my state, Nevada, we have the highest unemployment rate in the country right now, 25%. Businesses have shuttered. People have stayed home to help us stem the spread of this virus. And what we told them months ago is that if you do this, we will be there. Our federal government, we will be there to work with you. We will help you. We will make sure that you have money in your pocket so that you can afford the health care, so that you can pay your bills, so that you can pay your rent, you can pay for your food, so that you do not have any economic insecurity. We made that commitment to them. We promised them. And I have to say, we still have to follow that obligation, Mr. President. They're doing their part. So why aren't we doing ours? At the end of the day, you and I both know, and all of our colleagues know, there is more economic insecurity in this country right now than we've ever seen before because of this pandemic. Food insecurity, housing insecurity, job insecurity, education insecurity. There's a homework gap. We know it. It is happening. So it really is time now for us to stop the posturing, stop the political gamesmanship, and really do what we committed when we swore an oath to this office, when we were sworn in, that we were going to do right by people across this country, looking out for their interests, not our interests, but the best interests of this country. And so I come to the floor today to really ask my colleagues, let's try and do what is right for the best interests of this country now more than ever. You know, I know you get them. I get letters. I have letters from constituents right now, and I can't tell you, I've been inundated with them. A constituent from Nevada: I urge you to extend the federal eviction moratorium and include at least $100 billion in funding for emergency rental assistance and the next relief package. This assistance will enable households, including those who have lost jobs or who already were struggling to pay rent before the pandemic, to remain stably housed and avoid the devastating and long-lasting harms of eviction. That's a constituent. I didn't write that. They sent it to my office. And in this letter, this constituent from Nevada goes on to say, it is important to be kind and compassionate, especially during this time. We have the opportunity to learn and to do better always. No one should be forced out of their home during a global pandemic. Those are similar letters I receive. I know you receive them. I know our colleagues receive them. And that's why today it is important for us to focus on so much that is happening, including that economic security. Right now, I want to focus on one piece of it that we need to address, that should be part of a global piece, which is this idea that right now, millions of Americans are concerned about being evicted from their homes. In the middle of a pandemic, where people need a safe place to call home, they are concerned that they don't have the money to pay their rent because we've asked them to stay home. Now, I've said this before on the floor of the Senate. I will say it again. In the middle of a pandemic, housing is health care. Security in your own home is health care. And yet we have millions of people across the country on the brink of eviction. In mid-July, a quarter of adults reported that they were housing insecure. That's 1 in 4. And in more than half of the states in America, eviction bans have expired. That means across the nation, more and more families will have to pack up everything that they can carry in the space of hours. There could be 40 million evictions nationwide by the end of the year. And what we have seen amongst the data that comes into all of our offices is that families of color are likely to be the hardest hit. In my home state of Nevada, experts believe that nearly 500,000 people are at risk of eviction. Perhaps as many as 300,000 of them in Nevada by September. Among renters, up to 47% face that risk. Now, staving off Nevada evictions could cost Nevada $850 billion in rental assistance over the next year. That's just one state. But you know what? The states, the local governments, everyone has been impacted by this pandemic, and they are rightly looking to Congress to address it. They are desperate for us to pass meaningful legislation to get them money to pay their bills, to enact protections that let them stay in their homes and apartments. And Mr. President, we need to help them now. We can't turn our backs. We cannot turn our backs on Americans now more than ever. They need our help. And we need the administration. We need leadership, Republican leadership, coming to the negotiating table to get real relief passed, not hollow political gestures. We need a package that will include rental and housing assistance to prevent an epidemic of homelessness and stabilize the housing markets. Because if we don't, the consequences are going to haunt families and our economy for years. Now, I know this. Take it from me. In Nevada, we saw 200,000 families lose their homes because of the 2008 housing crisis. That foreclosure crisis hit Nevada so hard. And it has been a long, long road back for so many Nevadans. And I am determined not to ever see that happen again and to bring the relief, if I'm in a position, like we all are here in Congress, to bring that relief. Why aren't we in a room negotiating it? Why are we not talking regularly? We did it with the CARES Act immediately. We saw the need and we did something about it. You know, Nevadans are already struggling to find work, to afford food, to stay healthy during this pandemic. Plus, they're helping their children learn as schools start to reopen. They cannot effectively do that, none of it, without a safe place to stay, a roof over their head. Housing is the key to any sense of stability in our chaotic world right now. It's time to end the political games. Americans expect it. They need a roof over their heads. And that is why it is so vital we pass legislation, not just to help Nevadans, but people all over the country pay their rent and utility bills when they cannot safely go to work because of this health pandemic. And we already have legislation that's out there. We know it. The House months ago has passed the HEROES Act, which addresses this issue. Our colleagues have introduced legislation. Senator Brown's Emergency Rental Assistance and Rental Market Stabilization Act. is out there that can do the job. We can talk about how we bring this bill forward that helps so many families. And it's not just rental stabilization to help families keep a roof over the head. Remember, there's a lot of small businesses that are landlords. There are many businesses that are landlords that are shouldering the missed opportunities, and they are struggling. Landlords have bills to pay as well. They have mortgages, they have taxes, they have insurance, staff, let alone their families that they have to take care of. Without assistance, many of them will go bankrupt or can be forced to sell their properties. So let's focus on the essentials, the basic need for things like shelter. Let's keep people safe and off the streets. Let's pass Senator Brown's rental assistance. Senator Reid has a housing assistance fund to help homeowners avoid foreclosure. Senator Menendez, housing counseling bill. There's so many others. They're in front of us. We have an opportunity to do the right thing here. The Senate just needs to do its part by making sure those homes are safe and stable, by passing legislation that's going to have a positive impact on so many Americans across this country. So, Mr. President, thank you for listening. Thank you to my colleagues for at least having the ability and the will to try to do something through the legislation that was introduced. But now more needs to be done. We can't just introduce legislation. Now it's time to do our jobs as senators, to come to the floor of this Senate, bring the legislation to the floor and debate it. Let the American public actually see us work and do our jobs that we promised them we would be doing. It's okay to debate legislation. It's okay to compromise and come forth with good government and good policy that's going to lift all of us up. That's what the Senate should be doing. And that's what I look forward to from my colleagues. So thank you, Mr. President. I yield the floor.